Hello, class. This is going to be a, brief introduction into Unit 2. Um, One thing I just want to throw out there, like a difference between a class like college algebra versus our survey class. College algebra, like every unit kind of builds on the previous unit. For a survey, each unit is mostly independent. Um, there's going to be some overlap here and there, but in general, we kind of each unit is kind of its own little thing. So, um, so if you like that unit, then unfortunately here, in 4 weeks we change and go on something different. If you don't like the unit, then in 4 weeks, we kind of go into something different. So, first of all, let me just on the test, test one. So when you're doing a math class, you need to think of it like a marathon, not a sprint. And so if you don't do as well on that first test as you would like, the question is now, what do you do different moving forward? I see a lot of people, unfortunately, are not doing all the homework. If you're not doing your homework and quizzes, you're not giving yourself a chance to pass. Um, I see, I think like less than half of the class is watching the videos. And so if you're, not watching the videos, and you're not coming to class, you're missing out on how I'm presenting material. And since I'm the one like writing the tests, that definitely, influences how I present the material is also how I test. So yeah, I think you're missing out on something there. Um, and for some of you, I think you get away with it in this first unit because it's mostly review. But as we go deeper into the course, there's going to be some brand new things. Chapter 2 and Chapter 3, which are the main, Chapter 2 is like our main topic for Test 2. Chapter 3 is half of Unit 3. A lot of that is logic and definitions, and it's probably something that most of you have never dealt with before. So you definitely need to get in the habit of watching those videos, just treating it like a lecture that you're not getting because you're not coming to class. On the retest, if you do need to retest, and I'll put out more information on this as well, but basically you have till the 28th. What is that Sunday? I'll double check that. Yeah, the 28th. So you'll have 2 weeks to retest. Whenever you're ready to retest, then you will be taking that just like you did the first exam. So it is the same basic exam, but the one thing I'll do is since it is a retest, I tend to not be as generous with partial credit. Of course, a lot of you are not turning in your work, so your partial credit's kind of low on this first test anyway. So there's things that you can do to kind of make up for that first test if it didn't go as well as you like. But some of you need to like figure out what's working and what's not and make some changes. And if you need any help with doing that sort of stuff, please contact me. Not only have I been a teacher for a long time, but I was, a student as well. So I have, I can help people kind of adjust to do better in the course. All right. So that aside, let's look and see what Unit 2 is. So let me get into Blackboard. All right. So just like with the first unit, so I have study resources for Unit 2. The folder is set up just like for Unit 1. Oh, before I get into that, let me look at the schedule. It is here. So when is our test 2? Okay, so test 2, basically we have a test every 3 to 4 weeks roughly. So Monday is going to be the 15th. That's when you're starting Unit 2. This test for my in-person class is going to be that Thursday and Friday of that 9th and 10th of October. For the online class, I'll give you through Sunday. So 12th of October, that'll be the due date for this test. That's that week before fall break. So you basically have, 4 weeks for that test. Right, and again, when you look at that weekly schedule, that's for my Monday, Wednesday, Friday. That's like what we're covering in class. So that will also give you kind of a heads up on like what you need to be doing each week when you're doing it on your own, in addition to the due dates that are posted in MathLab. So in the study resources, again, I've got the lecture note outlines. The lecture note outlines are what I use in class, and then when I make my videos, I bring up the document camera and go through all of these. Sometimes I'll bring up homework problems to supplement this, but this is, when I'm doing my lecture videos, this is the bulk of what we're doing. And so let me get into MATLAB and show you that way. I got the better, I think the name's a little bit better there. All right, so what are we doing in Unit 2? Well, to start off, we're going to finish Chapter 5 and Chapter 6. So there's a couple of sections. We're going to do 6.4, which is inequalities, and then 5.6, which is exponent rules and scientific notation. All right, so the reason that we didn't do this in Unit 1, this is a little bit more college algebra and chemistry prep. And so this is not something that we're going to need for the rest of this semester. But again, since about half of you are going on to those classes, the inequalities, that's a typical college algebra thing. If you can solve equations, you can solve inequalities. There's some extra stuff that we'll have to talk about, but we're just doing greater than or less than. The solving process pretty much works the same. Then in 5.6, and I've split this into two homeworks because the exponent rules, this is definitely a college algebra topic. This is what happens when you multiply and divide variables. To this point, we like with our distribution, we were only multiplying by constants. Now we're going to be multiplying by variables. When we were doing combining like terms, we were only adding, subtracting, but we had to be able to multiply and divide for college algebra. So that's what that section is. Scientific notation kind of is an outgrowth of that. The reason we're doing scientific notation is specifically for all the chemistry students. The chemistry instructors requested that we that's a weakness for incoming chemistry students. So we're going to cover that to help you get ready for that. So that will finish off Chapter 5 and Chapter 6. So the bulk of Unit 2 is going to be Chapter 2. It's going to be set theory and Venn diagrams. And so, like I said, I imagine most of you have not dealt with this before, so it's going to be something brand new for everyone. It's not going to feel like normal math. The arithmetic that you're doing is going to be basically adding, subtracting. Sometimes you'll be raising things to the power of 2, but other than that, it's adding and subtracting. So the math part of Chapter 2 and Chapter 3, when we get to it for the next unit, is logic. You have to learn your definitions for this stuff. And you may not be used to that in math. You're probably not used to that. But if you don't learn your definitions, you're not going to be successful in Chapter 2 or Chapter 3. And I don't mean just like being able to memorize and regurgitate the formal definitions. You have to understand what those definitions mean and apply them to a problem. Okay, so that's, if you're a flashcard set of person, if you like flashcards for things, Chapter 2 and Chapter 3 are excellent chapters to make flashcards to help learn. Okay. So like 2.1, 2.2, that's a lot of definition style stuff. 2.3, 2.4, 2.5, that's when we start getting into operations. If you've ever dealt with union and intersection, that's the sort of thing we'll be doing. Okay, so that's our next 4 weeks. We're going to spend a lot of time with our Venn diagrams and our sets and learning definitions. So let's see. Oh, back in Blackboard, again, since this is my first semester to teach this online a while, I'm still working on the videos. So I'll be getting, hopefully by the end of next week, I'll have the whole chapter, but I'll definitely stay ahead of the class on those videos. As always, there's videos from the book. And so I've got those links posted in Blackboard. You can also go to the ebook in MyMathLab and find them, but here they are. So this way you already have the book videos, and then I'll have my videos. And then I've also put links to the PowerPoints in the book. So don't forget about these resources that are in Blackboard, particularly since we're going into something that's going to be new for most of you. So hopefully that gives you a good overview. This unit's going to work just like the last unit. There's going to be, a homework or two, and then a skill check quiz, and then that'll proceed. And then each week you're going to be doing 2 to 3 homework sets, and then 1, maybe 2 skill check quizzes. And then when it comes test time, we will have the mini review, full review. So, this test is those two, 6, 4, 5, 6 in chapter 2. Okay. Have a good day.